So this is our first stage, right?
Right.
First stage of the two-man team match. So anyways, guys, the reason we have this here is because one of the bays has these targets, and these targets are of course unique in that one, they are a 70s porn star, but secondarily we wanted to point out what the A zone is. You can't really see it very clearly, but there's like a little hash mark around, which really is a more anatomically correct target in terms of A zones. We've seen this at other matches where you have like the IDPA targets and you have like this little circle in this, which maybe requires more precision, but in terms of anatomic reality, that really is an A zone.
Yeah, that's the spot that turns the body off.
This is the stuff that makes this guy no longer become a porn star and becomes, he just kind of just sits there and does nothing. But in regards to that, so we have two bays, right? So we start in a hula hoop.
Right, and we split up.
We split up. So you're going to go to the right, and I'm going to go to the left. On the left bay is a bunch of these porn stars. Ironically or oddly, they all look exactly the same, so they must have been genetically engineered in a lab because
clones.
They're clones. They're clone porn stars. And there's a vehicle there, and from the vehicle you have to engage from different positions, and you have to get at least 2 hits minimum inside the A zone of each of those porn star targets. You have to retain any partial magazines, but you're not limited on ammunition, right? So I'm going to go to the left because I've got AK. AK does not have accuracy, but what it has is volume of fire, especially with coupled mags. So I'm going to probably run through these mags, and I'm going to blast the bejesus out of these porn stars. You have to go to the right, and you have a vehicle to shoot from as well, but you have more precise targets required.
Yeah, there's a clay in the center of each silhouette, and I'm allowed 2 shots at each one to neutralize.
So you're limited on your ammunition. You have 2 rounds per target, but you have to hit and neutralize clays.
Right, so I'm probably going to dial up to 4 or 5 power on that, just so I can see the hits. The clays don't always break when they're struck with a rifle.
No, that's true. 5.56 hits, you can sometimes just a little hole, and you're not going to be sure if you hit it or not unless you can see it.
Right, so there'll be some self-scoring on my part. I'm not going to shoot that stage as quickly as I would a 3-gun stage.
Yes.
It's going to be more important to make sure all the targets are neutralized. Hope I don't leave any standing.
That's an important part about Tiger Valley. One of the things we took away from Tiger Valley in previous matches here is something we incorporated into Desert Brutality and Finish Brutality, is that the scoring mechanism is more about being clean than it is about being fast. The penalties for leaving targets behind are severe. Any penalty is severe, so what you need to do is have clean stages, not necessarily the fastest stages. And we brought that to Desert Brutality. I think it really brings something to the match that's more realistic.
It's definitely different than other venues, and testing speed sometimes is good, testing accuracy sometimes is good, and finding the right balance between the two.
So in that regard, you're going to use your 1-to-8 to get those clays. I'm going to use my fixed 4X, and I'm going to use a lot of ammunition, and hopefully we come away from this stage clean. Stay tuned to see our run. Go. Load. Come on. Engage.
Go.
So our stage 1, I'm going to call that Lethos, which stands for less than optimal start. I'm sure everything went fine for you. Not everything went fine for me, and I found a huge deficiency in my gear.
What was that?
It's one of those things, test everything, right? So I've got this awesome whiz-bang 60 rounds on tap of 2 jungle taped magazines together. I got a pistol cartridge, little cartridge thing in the middle, and I got electrical tape, and I've used it at many matches with my 5.56 gun many times where you can just switch really quick. So I get up to the stage and you have to load on the clock, and I go to load the first magazine in, and I'm loading, it won't go in, and I'm like, maybe the sling's in the way because it looked like the sling was in the way, and then I realized I switched to the other magazine of the jungle clip and got it in, but guess what? Some Russian optics lock to the back, some lock to the front. This one locks to the front. It's got this huge lever right here. That lever is right in the way of where the second mag would have to index when you're putting it into the mag well. I did not test that before coming to the match. That means that with this optic, that jungle clip mag is a no-go.
Well, you maxed out your accessory slots.
I
You play Call of Duty. You only put so many options on your gun, or you're limited there.
I have totally run out of accessory slots. So that means that the jungle mag is out for the rest of this match unless I would ditch the optic, which I'm not going to do because the optic is more important than the jungle tape mag. So I switched to the mag and then switched to single mags after that, and then I picked up the mag on the way out because we know that mags with ammunition left at this match stay behind is a penalty.
Right.
So I picked it up and ran to the thing. The other thing I ran into is we hear arguments all the time back and forth about this long or high bore offset on the AK. Some people think that this idea of a chin weld gives you better situational awareness. Some people think it's a deficiency. I think that both those arguments have merit, but I do know that when I have this large or very high bore offset that I have run into more problems than benefit in doing as such. The OBSOR less so, but in this result with this gun, it absolutely cost me because when I was firing on the last 2 targets, or close to the last 2 targets on that bay, my bore offset was not quite right, and I skipped some rounds off of the glass of the vehicle, and I left behind 2 FTNs as a result.
All right, I saw, because I was already back watching you shoot.
Yeah.
I saw your first round clear the path.
Yes.
And then your second round hit the target.
Okay. So what it had, it was like literally skipping off, like skipping off of water, because it wasn't through the glass. It was like on the glass.
Right.
Like it cut a beautiful little laser beam streak. So as a result, that caused 2 FTN. So that's 30 seconds in penalties each. So a total of 60 seconds in penalties. I guess the other targets were all clean.
Right.
One of the things that was confusing is when I had to figure out what the hell was going on with my magazine, and I couldn't do that jungle mag the way I thought, is I lost track of where I was on targets too. So I double engaged some targets from that car. It was easier with your clays because I think for the most part you know when you hit it or not, especially with your magnification.
Right. Well, and something at this match is they seem to not want you to like walk through the stage you would normally for a regular action shooting match where you plan out what you're doing. I kind of watched what people are doing and got one good look at my side of the stage. So I knew I was going to shoot 4 targets, then take out the bunch in the middle, and then I'd have a couple left over on the end. The exact positioning I used, I could not determine until I was actually up there shooting.
Yeah.
So
I think that their reluctance or their deterrence of people doing walkthroughs is actually a good thing. I think it provides a more practical training shooting environment, and it still doesn't harm the match. A lot of these times when you go to regular 3-gun or IPSC or USPSA and people are finger gunning for like hours, it seems like, and figuring out how many steps they're going to take between window to window Y and window X, it takes away some of the flavor and some of the potential skill building that can come from a stage when you kind of go into it, not blind, but semi-blind.
Right, and I think that, as long as you know what the match is and that's enforced fairly, it's a good thing.
Yep.
So some of the positions I envisioned myself using on this stage, I didn't. I ended up supporting more or less through the middle of the windows on them versus posting up because the angles from each of those positions could prevent you from seeing other targets.
Or make you hit glass. If you have your bore offset slightly off. So the same thing happened on my side. There's like the side of the truck, 2 different windows, and then the front of the truck. And once you move positions, it's really fascinating when there's an array of targets downrange, or if you've ever been hunting for the same reason. You engage something and then you move, and your entire perspective from only just a few feet away changes everything. Like, did I engage those 3 paper targets already? I don't know. Before they looked like they were behind each other, but now they're actually spaced apart. And so I'm sure I double engaged a few targets as well, which burned some time. But with paper, unless you have super high magnification, and especially after you're the last one shooting the stage where there's a bunch of tape on it, you really don't know if there's holes there or not.
All right. My mental process of my target engagements was different too, given the emphasis on accuracy on this, that I couldn't fire more than 2 shots. I slowed down, I got a clear, stable sight picture, sent it, observed the result, then moved on. And in other action shooting environments, I would just send it and move. I wouldn't care about it as much.
I would say that with all that involved, and never mind my bore offset, which we'll be more cognizant of in future stages for this match, one of those things to be very aware of with Russian optics, guys, is this match's emphasis is different. And I personally really prefer it. I like that idea because it seems like it's emphasizing like more real-world shooting skills.
I like doing different stuff. So this is just a different type of challenge, and switching gears between speed and back and forth to accuracy, like I said, is a good thing. You should be able to do both equally well.
Fair enough. You know, actually, it looked like a simple stage, but it actually in practice was much more challenging than one would think. There's a lot going on there. So it doesn't take a very complex design to make an emphasis on skills worth building. So stage 1 of Tiger Valley has proven to be really interesting, even if it wasn't an optimal start, but we've got a lot more stages to go. And I already know from this match that a couple penalties here and there don't matter, because in the long run, this is a marathon, not a sprint. So stay tuned for stage 2 of Tiger Valley coming up soon.